Although the Sun is just one of many hundreds of billions of stars in the Milky Way galaxy alone, the Quran, not very scientifically, describes the Sun as a lamp, siraj, here circled in red, where it says in 71:16, and He, Allah, has made the moon a light therein and made the Sun a lamp. Even though not directly mentioned, there is another reference to the sun being a lamp in Quran 25:61. Interestingly, Muhammad is also described as a lamp, circled in red, with the same Arabic wording siraj in Quran 33:45-46. O Prophet, indeed we have sent you as a witness and a bringer of good tidings and a warner and one who invites to Allah by His permission and an illuminating lamp. The Quran in 21:33 confirms the sun has an orbit where it says, and it is He who created the night and the day and the sun and the moon, all in an orbit are swimming. But it is the planet that revolves around the sun, as this picture shows, including the earth, for which there is no reference of it having an orbit in this verse or anywhere else in the Quran. The sun would only have an orbit in a geocentric worldview, something that the Quran proves again in 36:38, when it says, and the sun runs towards its stopping point. This was covered in the previous video, as the sun, astronomically speaking, does not have a fixed stopping point, but it would only do so in a geocentric worldview, as this next video shows. According to Islamic scholarship, there are a series of deductive methods in order to understand the Quran, although it makes a claim for itself in Quran 11:1 as this is a book whose verses are well perfected and then fully explained. Despite the claim, there are many times when a Quranic verse requires further explanation, sometimes with the aid of another verse in the Quran or the need to rely upon voluminous, often contradictory scholarly commentaries to explain it. If not found by the Quran, then the secondary source of Hadith or Muhammad's words are the next point of reference to explain the Quran. So to dispel any doubt, the Hadith literature will be looked at to clarify what is meant by the sun having a resting point or orbit. Quran 36:38, as explained by Muhammad about the sun having an orbit, is found in Sahih Bukhari 3199. Narrated Abu Dhar, the Prophet asked me at sunset, do you know where the sun goes at the time of sunset? I replied, Allah and His Apostle know better. He said, it goes, travelled, till it prostrates itself underneath the throne and takes the permission to rise again, and it is permitted, and then a time will come when it will be about to prostrate itself, but its prostration will not be accepted, and it will ask permission to go on its course, but it will not be permitted, but it will be ordered to return whence it has come, and so it will rise in the west. And that is the interpretation of the statement of Allah, and the sun runs its fixed course for a term decreed. That is the decree of Allah, the exalted in might, the all-knowing. Quran 36:38. The Hadith and the Quran shows Muhammad only saw the world according to his own vicinity, not the whole earth, even less so the universe. For example, in this first picture, it shows the sun has just set in Arabia, where he would have resided. It has just become night. But at the same time, somewhere else on earth, the sun is still visible and daylight elsewhere. In other words, the sun has not gone anywhere, no less under Allah's throne, because people in Europe, large parts of Africa, and America can still see it. It would only disappear and go under somewhere if the earth was considered flat. In the next picture, the sun has risen over large parts of Arabia and is visible, but it is not visible in other parts of the world, such as the Americas. In other words, on a spherical earth, there is no time when the sun completely disappears and goes somewhere without it being visible to someone else in another part of the world. The Quran says the sun follows the moon in 91 verses 1 to 2, by the sun and its brightness, and the moon as it follows it. From a scientific point of view, the moon and the sun do not follow one another. In Quran 36:40 it says, "Not the sun is permitted for it that it overtakes the moon, and not the night can outstrip the day, but all in an orbit they are floating." Early Quran commentator Tabari explains the verse to mean, the light of this sun cannot overtake the light of this moon. Again, whether it is this verse or the previously cited verses, none of them are scientifically accurate. If the verses are from a human visual perspective as viewed from Earth, then the Quran is not bringing any new knowledge that was not known to the people observing them at the time in the 7th century, or to anyone since antiquity or time immemorial. To evidence it is a divine, God-written book, it would be far more evidentiary for an omniscient creator of the universe to bring new knowledge that could be beneficial to humanity for all times. Having said this, these verses are not accurate even from a human visual perspective, as in an eclipse, the moon and sun do overtake one another, where one cancels the other one out, whether it is a solar or a lunar eclipse. Also, there are rare celestial situations called selenelion, when the moon is visible during the day as depicted here in this picture. It is when there is an eclipsed moon on the western horizon, as well as a rising sun on the eastern horizon. There is also the midnight sun, is another phenomenon when the sun remains visible at the local midnight during summer months over the polar regions. Therefore, the Quran is not even accurate about the sun from the point of view as humans see it from Earth, even less so accurate astronomically. The place and time of the sunset in Arabic is called Maghrib or West, which is why the sunset prayer is also called by the same term. Conversely, the place of the sunrise in Arabic is called Mashriq or East. These terms come from the geographical place of West or East respectively in the context of the sun in regards to its visual reference from Earth, in that the sun seems to set to the western side of Earth and likewise rises from the eastern side. This is why the Quran in places such as 70:40 and 73:9 and other places describes Allah as the Lord of the East and the West. In reality, of course, the sun does not rise from any geographical areas of the earth, west or east. The sun only seems to rise in the east and set in the west because of Earth's rotation. If the earth was considered flat, as illustrated by this picture, it would have edges as confirmed by Quran 13:41. In this case, any person is able to travel to the western edge to find the place where the sun sets, and to the eastern edge to find the place where it rises, a topic that will be discussed in the next video. There are two wests and two easts in Quran 55:17, where it says, Lord of the two Easts and Lord of the two Wests. Ibn Kathir interprets it as meaning the sunrise of summer and winter and the sunset of summer and winter. The link is in the description. Ibn Abbas, Muhammad's cousin and close companion, is quoted in Tanwir al-Miqbas as explaining the verse, there are two easts and two wests. The east of winter and the east of summer have 180 phases, just as the two wests and the moon have 180 phases. It is also said that the easts of summer and winter have 177 phases, and the wests of summer and winter, as well as the moon, have 177 phases. The sun rises throughout the year for 2 days in the same phase, and it also sets 2 days in the same phase. End quote. Note that Ibn Abbas does not claim that the Quran reveals for the first time of the existence of two easts and two wests. Instead, he explains the expression by connecting it to something the people already knew. The point remains, the sun does not rise and set at the same 2 points, whether in terms of two easts or two wests, depending on the summer or winter seasons, as the commentaries state. The sun has many points of its sunrise and sunset, nor does it rise or set at the same time on any given day for any two people if they live in different parts of the world. This is because it rises and sets at multiple different times for different places, depending on the geographical area the person is on earth at the time. So in conclusion, the Quran reflects the prevailing view of its time. To the 7th century Arabs, the prevalent view was not of a heliocentric spherical earth, so upon their observation, the earth was stationary and the sun seemed to move around it. So to them, it would have appeared that the sun and the moon were in an orbit that never overlapped. They saw the sun rise from the east every morning and set in the west in the evening, which signified the end of that day and the start of the next day. In fact, according to the Quran, the sun has an actual place where it rises and sets from. This will be explained in the next video. The Quran says the sun runs towards its stopping point and has an orbit, but it is Earth and the other planets that revolve around the sun. Also, the Quran mentions the night and the day as distinct phenomena. Scientifically, though, they are caused as a direct correlation with the sun and the Earth's rotation. As explained in the previous video, the modern apologetics of the sun orbiting the galaxy is a desperate attempt, as it does not explain what the sun's actual stopping or resting point is. By making such a claim, the apologists are saying they know better than Muhammad, who explained it to mean that the sun travels and prostrates itself underneath the throne of Allah. When the Quran says that the sun and the moon follow certain paths and they do not overtake one another, even if it is meant visually as viewed from Earth, on both counts it is inaccurate, whether scientifically or visually, because there are eclipses or rare phenomenon called selenium. The Quran says there are two wests and two easts in reference to the sunrise and sunset. Although scientifically the sun does not rise or set, but even if it is said to mean visually, the sun has many points of sunrise and sunset because it never rises and sets at the same point on any 2 given days. Instead, it rises and sets at multiple different times for different places, depending on the geographical area the person is on earth at the time. If all the Quranic verses cited do not actually refer to scientific explanations for the role of the sun within the solar system, but only what humans view from Earth, then the Quran does not bring anything new in terms of knowledge. There is nothing beneficial or revolutionary to humanity. People should expect, and indeed deserve, new or enlightened knowledge from a book that claims to be God-given and divine.